Hi everyone, welcome to the Bioinformatics Coach channel. This is another episode of my tutorials on R tutorial for bioinformatics. In today's video, we are going to look at how to subset tables and data frames in R. Alright, so if you have a table like this, let me just show one here. If you have a table like this, or let's say a data like this, you may want to subset based on columns or based on rows, or you may even want to subset based on certain conditions. All right, so that means you perform conditional queries. So I'll show you how to do all those things in R. So you only need to make sure you have R installed. You don't need any additional package, just R is what we are going to use. So take note of that. And let me say that the R script I'm using, all right, the R script here, all the codes here, everything in this R script is available. So if you want the R script, check the description, the download link to the file is there. All right, so let's get started. So for this, we are going to see an example data, which is here. I earlier on showed it here, but this data is available on my GitHub repository, one of them. So I will just take you there first so that you get it. So the link to this GitHub repo, the link to this page is in the description box. So when you are here, download this file, basic_result.tsv. All right, so make sure you download it and then you can work with it. You can even load it directly in your R without having to download, but I'll show you that when we start the exercise. So make sure to download it and then proceed. So I have mine here. Let me just show it here. Yeah, so this is mine. So I also have taken notes of my working directory, which is here. So I will load everything in R. All right, so let's get started. So this data set, before I start, let me say this data set is a DSIC result, DSIC2 results, by the way. So this is a differential expression analysis output. So I use DSIC2 to generate this. So if you want to learn how to perform differential expression analysis using DSIC2, I have tutorials that show us to do that. You can do that in R. You can also do that on Galaxy. So I have tutorials for both. So check the description where you find links to videos that show you how to do that. All right. So let's get started. So let's go back to R and then start. So I will open a new script because I'm going to do everything in an interactive manner. So I'll open a new script like this and then I'll proceed. All right, so just open your R and then just come to file and then click on new file and then select your R script to get something like this. But I have this one here which I call my skeleton script. It has the activities we are going to cover, so I'll switch to that and then I'll proceed. This has comments and all that, so that's more convenient for me. All right, so again, if you want the scripts or the course, just check the description. The down link to the script is there. All right, so we are going to start the exercise now. So first of all, we need to set a working directory. We will set it to the directory which has the file that we are going to use, our input file. So I will set mine now. So it's going to be like this: set wd in lowercase, and then you bring your quotes, single or double quotes, and then you specify the directory which has the file. All right, so mine is /home/webinar/r tutorial. This is the path to the directory. So I'll just click it and set it. So setting the directory means that if I am reading the file, I don't need to specify this path. And it also means that whatever output I generate, I can save it directly to that path. So take note of that. All right. So now we are going to read the table. I think I didn't bring that one here. Let me just do it here. So read table. We need to add that also before we start all this. So I will just have to add that here. All right. So let's get started. So what we are going to do next is to read the table. All right. So I'll say table underscore data. Then I'll say read.csv. Read.csv. And I'll specify the file, which is basic_results.tsv. and then I bring my comma and I will specify a separator. This package by default uses the comma character as a separator, but we are reading a TSV file which has tabs as separators. So we have to specify sep, that separator equals, I bring my quote, I say /t for tab. So this will set it for me and then I can read it. So now I've read the table. So I can say table underscore data, and I'll see some stuffs being shown for me here. All right, so that means everything is looking good. Okay, now let's do this. Before I proceed, let's check the number of rows and columns. It's something we need to do. If you are going to explore data, obviously that's something you want to do. So it's going to be dim, I say table underscore data. So this will give me the number of rows and columns. So we have 18314. So these are gens, that's the rows, and we have 7 columns, that's additional information. So these rows, each row represents a gen, and we have these statistics. Okay, basically, and this is the gen name. All right, so basic 2 output something like this, and then you can perform your downstream analysis. Okay, so let's get into R again. All right, so we are back to R. So we will proceed now that everything is looking good. We will start. So we will start with subsetting of columns. Okay, so if you are going to subset data, let me just go back again. If you are going to subset, you can subset and maybe take maybe this column and this column. Maybe that's what you need. So you can take it, or maybe you want this alone, you can take it. So we are going to look at how to do that in R. So, and you should also make sure you have your column names. We have all of them here, but anyway, let's get back to R and then check them out. So first of all, check the columns, or let me just say get column names. Let me add this also so that it's clear. So I can use 2 approaches. Approach 1, I can say names table data, and that will give me the column names. Or I can also say all names table data, like this. This will also give me the column names. All right, so this is how we get the column names in R. So that's tip number 1. Okay, now we can continue. So let's do this. Now we are going to subset a single column, but select all rows. That's what we are going to do here. And so I'll use 3 approaches. That is approach 3. Let me just put it this way. I'm going to use 3 approaches here. Okay, so I'll show you all those things now. So I'll start with approach 1. So for approach 1, I'll say subset 1. That's the name I'll give to the output, because I want to assign the operation to a variable. Or let me just start this way. I think that will be better. So I'll just say table data dollar. Let's say I want to get the gene names, right? So if I want to get just a single column, just push this one here. I'll call a table like this, and I'll say dollar. I'll say gene name like this. So if you execute the command, you get the gene names being displayed for you. All right. Of course, we have lots of genes here, so you get lots of tests displayed here for you. All right. So this is how we get the this is how we subset a column, a single column. This is approach 1. All right. Now let's refine our command. Now let's assign everything to another variable. So I will say subset 1, and I will say table data $gen name. So when I execute it, it's now a subset. I have assigned to a variable, so I can just say subset 1. then just call it like this. So that will get it for me. All right, so this is approach 1. Now let's look at approach 2. So approach 2, let's say subset 2. Approach 2, we call the table again, and we bring our square brackets, and then in it I'll bring a comma. So the comma here indicates that I want all rows. For now, my interest is a single column, but all rows. So I can just do this. I can say name like this, and I'll execute it. So now if I say subset 2, I'll get it like this. Okay. You can also do this. I'll just do it here. So let me just do a copy and paste. This is just the command. Now I'm just going to do it straight away because I'm only displaying. So if you want to assign to a variable, then you know how to do it. Okay. So you can also do it this way and then just bring this. And that one is also going to work. So you see that we have some outputs here. That one is also going to work. All right. So any of these should work fine for you. All right. So that's fine. Now let's look at approach 3. So for approach 3, we use the subset function. All right. So let's bring me to this one. So subset is a reserved word. It's a function. It's the name of a function. So it's advisable not to use it as a variable. That's why I had subset 1, subset 2, because subset, the word subset is a function. It performs a special task. So you don't need to use that in your regular code as a variable. It may affect it if you want to use that function. It may affect the task because you may have already assigned that name to something else. Okay. So approach 3, we use the subset function. So I'll just say subsets, all right, like this, and then I indicate the table. So that's table data, comma, and I'll say select equals name. All right. So this time I'll just do it this way. I'll just bring my C and I'll bring my name and I'll execute it. So now you see what is happening here. Okay, so it has done it for me nicely. You can also assign to a variable. So I can just say subset 3 and then I'll execute it. So now if I just type subset 3, I will get the results like this. Okay, so that's for a single column and all rows. Now, what about if you want multiple columns? Okay, so this time let's just display the columns again. I have table data. Let's say I want 2 columns. Let's say I want gene name. Then let's say I want block 2 for change. So how do we do that? That's what we are going to look at now. So for that one, I will just say subset 4. I will assign it to a variable straight away. And then I'll say table underscore data. So I'll show you all the approaches. So I bring my square brackets, all rows, and then I put everything here. So gene name, comma, block 2 for change like this. Okay, so this is how we do the subsets by selecting 2 or more columns. So if you have more than 2 columns, you can also specify that. So I want you to try that. But for now, let's execute this command and see how it goes. All right, so that has been done. I'll say subset 4. and then voila, I have everything I need there. All right, so it's so simple and so cool. Now let's proceed. And let me say that the C function, which is this one, is used to combine the arguments. So me bringing C and specifying these column names will combine them. So it will return to me a vector, a one-dimensional vector, a 1D vector, then that is pushed to get the output for me, okay, to get what I want. In this case, to subset the table based on columns. All right. Okay, so let's proceed. So let's go to the next activity. And so the next activity, what we are going to do is to use the second approach. So that will be the subset function. So I'll say subset 5. Let me just use the lowercase. Subset 5 will be equals to subset. I'll say table data. Select, and you know the drill. You combine. So C, name, dot to fold change, like this, and then you are done. It's that simple and then straightforward. So let's execute this command. Perfect, that has been done. So we can continue. So now you can just make a query. All right, so let's try. So try to make a query, or let me just help you, since some of you may be beginners. I think it's better I do that as well. So the query is going to be subset 5, and then we execute it. So that will also give us what we want. So it's nicely done. All right, now let's get to subset of rows. Now we are going to subset rows. All right, so if we are going to subset rows, then obviously the first thing we do is to check the row names. So to check the row names, you say row names, you say table data. So that give us the row names, which is here. All right, so you can see that the row names are numbers. All right, so you can just do, let's say, head table data, let's say 3, so that we can see it clearly. So these are the row names 1, 2, 3. So in Python, for example, instead of row names, you will hear index a lot. All right, so this is it. So these are the row names 1, 2, 3. Row names most of the time have unique values, and in some cases, if they are not unique, then the function or the package that is reading it may refuse to even read the data itself because of duplicate. So you must also look at that, because row names are supposed to be used as identifiers. So it makes sense if you use unique identifiers. So since we did not specify any column to be used as row names when we were reading the data, let's get back here. R automatically uses numbers to get that done for us. Okay, so that makes them unique. Okay, so now we have the row name. So that means if you are going to subset, since you know the row names, in this case they are numbers, you can just start. So this time around, we are going to subset rows, but select all columns, right? So let's do this. I'll say subset 6. I'll say table data. So this time, the square bracket, you can say 1 and then comma. So 1, that means we want the first row name is 1. The comma, nothing in here because we want to select all columns. All right, so I can execute it, and I can just say subset 6 to get it. So I have row name 1, so record 1. So that's it. So you can see the rows and then the columns here as well. So there's a single row or a single record. Okay, so this is the information for gen WSH7P, WASH-P, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, now let's try this. We can add another thing else. So let's say subset 7. All right, so this time what do we do? we are using the subset function. So I can just do this. I can just say subsets and do it this way. And then I say table underscore data, comma, and then here instead of select, which was for columns, here we don't use select, we use row names. And then you specify the table. So that is table data. This, and then you can say equals 1. Okay, so that means we just want the row 1. So you can execute it, and then you can just say subset 7. That will also give us what we want. Right. Now this one, you can put it as a vector. You can just, let me just do it here. You can use the C function. Let's do it here. You can do the C function. I can just say equals plus C. Now put it like this. Right. And that will also run for me. So all of these things are possible. So you can just experiment and then see which one you're comfortable with and then use that. Okay. So that's it. Now let's get back to the first approach here. All right. So you can just do this. If it's multiple rows, it's simple and straightforward. I'll just do it here. If it's multiple rows, I think I'll do that here because it follows. You can just bring your C, right? 1, 2, 3, like this. It's simple and straightforward. And when you run it, you'll get your rows 1, 2, 3, right? The same thing with this one. So if let's say you want row 1 and 2 or row 1, 2, 3, let's say subset 8. When you come here, 2, 3, it's simple and straightforward. And then you can execute it. You can run that command and then see. Okay. Now, if you do this, here's what's happening. When you do this, it says what? Longer object length is not a multiple of shorter object length. All right. So in this case, that means there's an issue. Okay. So for situations like this, you need to investigate and find out what the issue is. So let's see why we had this particular issue. So here, what we have, it's not really an issue, it's a warning. Okay, so it's a warning that is telling us that the operation that we are performing, there are 2 vectors involved. They are of unequal length. All right, so we even have it, it says in row names, table data equals for this. Longer object length is not a multiple of shorter object length. So this and this and this, they are of unequal length. So that is why we have this warning, right? So in this particular situation like this, let me just do subset 8. Right, so we are going to get it. We are going to see it here. It returns everything that it's supposed to be. All right, let's just check the previous ones too. Yeah, it returns them as it's supposed to be, but it's a warning to let you know that you are dealing with unequal length. All right, so for this particular situation, I will go for this approach, especially for a beginner, so that I am 100% sure. I'll go for this approach, right? So that I'm 100% sure that everything is fine. Okay, so even though here there's nothing wrong, it's just a warning because there are some operations going on behind the scenes and the requirements have not been met. That is on equal length for this and then this, they are on equal length. So that's why we have this happen. So some of these things, they are warnings to let you know that this is not what we actually want, but you can still do it, but you just have to be careful. That's what I'll say here. So just make sure if you see warnings, read about them, and then just make sure that everything is fine. Or you can use other approaches to also test and see if everything that you see here is expected. It's what you are expecting to get or to see, basically. All right. So just make sure you also pay attention to some of these things. Of course, the internet is there, so some of these error messages or warning messages, you can read about them online, and then just make sure that they are not giving you they are not giving you issues. All right, because normally if you are dealing with big data like this, it will become very difficult to track errors. So if you see a warning or an error message, you just have to make sure that you have looked it up and then it has been resolved. That's what I'm going to say here. Okay, now let's proceed. So we are done with this, but so far everything is okay, so I wouldn't be bothered. Okay. And of course, there's a table, so you can also check manually and then just see. But since it's returned what we want, we can safely ignore this warning. But if you are performing some operations, let's say mathematical operations, arithmetical operations and stuff like that, then you need to make sure you basically take a look at this warning message. Okay, now let's proceed. So let's continue. Now, this is what you are going to do. If you take a look at our row names, let's check. Row names, table data. The row names are what? In numbers. All right. But we would like to use the G names as row names. Let me just open the spreadsheet again. We want to use this as row name because these gens, their names are unique. Okay, every record has a unique name. All right, these are different gens, so we can use this as row names. So some queries, if you have the actual labels, okay, for some queries, if you have the actual labels, it also makes it easier for you to make your queries or do your subset. So what we are going to do is to use the gen name column as our row names, or let's say index. All right, so I'll use this opportunity to also tell you how that is done. Okay, so if you want to use a column as row names in R, then this is what you do. Let me just clear this so that beginners don't get confused. So you say row names, you specify the table, and then you say table, again the same table, dollar gen name, like this. So let's execute this command. Perfect, that has been done. So now if you say table, or I can even say head, table data, then I'm going to see something like this. All right. So here, we still see the gen name here, but a copy has been used. And that is what we see as the row names. You can also remove the column, this column, if you don't want it there. But for this, I'll just leave it there. Okay, because the purpose of this is to show you how to do subset. So I'll leave this one there, but in some situations, you may want to remove this and then maintain what is here, because when you are saving as an output, you can save this one, right, to avoid a duplicate entry. Okay, so let's proceed. So let's do this. We are now going to subset rows, but select all columns again, and this time we are using our modified table, and we have the gen names here. Okay, so now we are going to subset, and then we will use the gen names as the row names. So this is what we are going to do. Let's do one example. So I'll say subset 9. I'll say table data. I'll bring my square brackets, and then I'll just do this. I can say wash 7p, comma, like this. So let's execute this command. So now if I say subset 9, I'll get it done. All right. If let's say you have multiple rows that you want, it's the same thing. Let's just do it here. I'll just do a copy and paste. If you have multiple rows, then you just have to use your combine function here. Let me just let me just clear everything. So you call your table, you specify your square brackets, then you say C wash 7p, that's one of them, comma, and then you add another one. Let's see, what can you add? Okay, we have wash 9p, you can add that, so wash 9p. Then you bring your comma, then you can execute this command. So that will give you the records for the rows of interest. Now if you don't bring the comma, let's see what happens. You'll get this error message coming up. All right. Okay, so it says undefined columns selected. So if you want all columns, you bring your comma and then you leave it blank. If you want some columns, you can specify that. But we'll look at how to do that also very soon. Okay. Now let's try with subsets. So I'll say subset 10. This time I'm going to use a subset function. So that'll be subsets, table data, row names, table data. I'll say what? Equals C wash 7p. Let's correct it. And then wash 9p. So let's execute this command. Perfect, that has been done. Now I can say subset 10. Now I'll get it here. Okay, so this is it. Okay, now something weird is happening. What do we see? You see something weird happening. We're supposed to get 2, but we get just 1 here. So why do we have that? Okay, so there is something that you have to also look at. Probably naming or something else. But you can try this. Okay, let's use a different name and then see if you get the same thing happening. Then we can conclude that maybe it's the subset function itself which is giving us that issue. Right, so I'll just run it again. And I'll say subset 10. And this time I get this. Right, so that means probably something is wrong somewhere that we need to check. It could be that because it's a similar name or something like that. So let's try again and see if we get the same observation. So it's going to be wash 9. Let's do it. So wash 9p. Let's see. And just do it here. And then let's see how that also goes. Okay, so it still returns this. So probably something weird is going on that I don't know. I suspect there's a similarity in the name. That's why it's happening this way. Let's see. I'll just do a copy and paste here to see if this also works. So if it doesn't work, that means probably it's something weird happening. Maybe the name, they are similar, so it's not able to differentiate them. I'll just execute this and then yeah, so the same thing is happening. So probably that's my take. Probably because the names are almost similar. You have wash. The difference is 7. This is 9. So the only difference is this number 7 and 9. So probably the subset function is not able to identify or it's not able to differentiate. But there's something that it's also good that we are seeing. So that means that when you are doing the queries for multiple rows, then it's safer to use this approach rather, because that will give us what we want. And the subset, if the row names are clearly different, then that's going to work. But if they are similar, then probably we are going to have this situation coming up. So these are things that sometimes you always have to look out for, and then you can use the appropriate methods. All right, but it's something interesting which I'll look into, because this is the first time I'm seeing this kind of output here with the row names. All right, so it's something interesting that I'm seeing, and I think I'll look into it further later. But for now, let's note that if you're using the subset function, just make sure that the row names they are clearly distinct, they are clearly different, so that you don't get some of the records returned. Okay, so that is it for the selection of rows and all columns. Now let's look at this. Let's check it. How do we subset both rows and columns? Okay, that's what we are going to do next. So let's just say I want to subset. Let me just do a head first. Let's say head table data. Right, let's say 5. Let's do this. So let's just say I want to subset this gen watch 7p, and then I also want to get, let's say, the p adjusted value by this. How do I do that? Then it's simple. I can just do it this way. I can just say, let's say subset 11 table underscore data. I'll say wash 7p gen name, not gen name. We are using the p adjusted value, that's PADJ. Right. So here it's a single row and a single column. That's what we are doing here. Right. So I will just execute it. I can say subset 11. Okay, so I get it like this. Because we are looking for just a single record. So 0.8089552. That's this one. You can do multiple rows, multiple columns, or yeah. So at this stage, if you want to do multiple rows or multiple columns, then this is where you bring your C. Okay, so you can bring your C. Well, I'll just do a copy and paste here just for you to see. So if, let's say, a single row with multiple columns, let's say the columns I want p adjusted and then p value, all I have to do is to use my combine function here. So PADJ, comma, then p value like this. Then I'll execute the command. So this will give me a so watch p. I have the p adjusted value for it and the p value for it. If you want multiple rows, multiple columns to be my guest, that can also be done. You can try. This time, let's try. Let's just copy this and then paste. Let's add one more gen. Let's say this one here. You can try any gen of your choice. That's fine. I mean, we are practicing. So you combine like this. All right. So just make sure they are different. So the C, open brackets, bracket close, and then in you specify what you want. The same with this one. So these are columns and rows, or rows and columns. So now you get it. So this gen, and their respective p adjusted values and p values. All right. So it's very simple and straightforward. All right. Okay. So you'll continue. There are other packages that you can also use to make queries or subset tables. Okay. So those are things I'll cover in other tutorials. So take note of that. Okay. So let's proceed. So if you want the first 5 records, let me just clear this. We don't need this. If you want the first 5 records, let me just do this here. If you want the first 5 records, I can just say subset first 5 records. If I want the first 5 records, then I can just say head. We've been using head a lot, so this one you are used to. So head table data and then 5. So the 5 lets us know that, or lets I know that you want the first 5 records or first 5 rows. Yeah. So this is going to be record because we are specifying the 5. So both rows and then all columns will be returned for you. So that makes it a complete record. Okay. So let's execute this command. And that's fine. Let's subset last 10 records, or let's say last 5. Since we are dealing with 5 here, you can make this 5 And for that, it's going to be tail. So tail table data 5. And you can also have it this way. Okay. If you want the 10 also, let's say 10. And you can come and then change it to 10. And then you can run it. That'll give you the 10. All right. But there's also a default value. Let's try this. Let's say head table data. If you don't specify any number and you run, you get first 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what you get. Okay, for table data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also last 6. So if you don't specify any number, then the default number that will return is 6 for both head and then tail commands. All right, so take note of that. Now let's proceed. Let's do some conditional queries. So this one I'll just try with a few examples and then you can follow. Okay. So for that one, we are going to use a subset function, but you can use other ones too, that's fine. But I'll use a subset function for now, and then later we look at the other approaches as well. So I can say subsets, table data. Okay, now I'm doing select records where log24 change is less than 1. I'll say log2 will change less than 1. Right, so if I execute it, I'll get all records with log24 change less than 1. Okay, so there's a subset function. You can also select records where the absolute log24 change is greater than 1. Since we are dealing with in expression analysis results, then you can subset based on log24 change. So if it's absolute, then subset table data, you can say ABS log24 change greater than 1. So let's execute this command. So that will give us what we want. All right. Of course, you can assign the operation to a variable and then save it, but that's something we do in another tutorial. All right. So what about this? Select records where PSF value is less than 0.05 and log24 change is less than 1. So that's 2. So we can say subset table data, comma, PADJ less than 0.05 and log24 change less than 1. Let's execute this command. Nice, that will also give us what we want. Okay, so that is it. So I repeat, you can assign the operations to variables and then you can save these variables. All right, so let's just say this one, for example. Yeah, let's try with this one here. Okay, so let's just say this. Yeah, let me just modify this. So let's just say you want to subset. You have a criteria for selecting those that are significantly expressed, and then the threshold is PSF value less than 0.05 and absolute log24 change greater than 1. All right, you can do this. Let me just do that here. That'll be interesting. So I can just say DAG because the same command, but this time when I come to this one, it's going to be ABS. And this, and I'll say greater than 1. And I can execute it. And I can even get the number of gens. I can even say DEG dim DEG. We have 1491. These are the gens that are statistically significant. Okay, let's say significantly expressed. All right. So I can just save it. I can just say. So I will save it by saying write.table DEG, comma, I'll say far equals And I can say the seek underscore degene.tsv like this. And then command, I'll say row.names equals f, that's false. Because here I also have the gene names as a column, so I don't need the row names again. Then I'll say sep equals /t like this, and I'll execute the command. So this has been done. So now if I check it out, let's go to my working directory. Let's see it. If I go to my working directory, I'm going to see it. It is this one here, and I can open it like this, and then just check what is there. Okay, so this is one way of making conditional queries and then saving the result to an output file or output files. All right, so this is it. So this is how we subset tables and data frames in R. So there are lots of things you can do with R. All right, and you can also do this same activity in Python as well. I'm currently working on a tutorial for that, so you can use pandas and some other libraries to also do the same activity. So just make sure to subscribe to this channel and come back to watch these tutorials. So for those who want to support this channel too, there are links you can use to buy me a coffee. All right, so that'll be all for this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next session.